Hello and welcome to Nbyula Talks. Before we begin, we have a few updates and reminders for you. We would love to have you be part of our Nbyula community. And you can do so by logging on to www.nbyula.com, where you can join communities related to your area of interest, register for upcoming Nbyula Talks, book one-to-one skylifts, and view other upcoming events. You can also take this opportunity to connect with fellow learners or the speaker by sending a connection request. When you connect with the speaker, you will be able to contact them directly as well as receive updates about their upcoming talks. Kindly note that during this session, you will not be able to switch on your camera or unmute your mic. To ask questions during the talk, go to the audience chat, type your question, and select Post Your Question. If your question has not been answered during the talk, you will be notified once it's been answered, or if your question has not been answered during the talk, you can go to www.nbyula.com and spin a quest, and your questions will be answered. Thank you for joining us today. We hope this talk broadens your horizons and takes you to new learning heights.
And welcome to another one of our Nbyula Talks. I am Sadhana, part of the Nbyula editorial and engagement team, and your compere for today. It is lovely to have you all join us on this interesting conversation today. So firstly, let me give you all a brief of what Nbyula is and how Nbyula enables and empowers international studies and work aspirants. Nbyula strives to bring about transparency, accessibility, and awareness around everything pertaining to international studies and work. We do that by connecting international study and work aspirants with experts from every related field, international students, alumni, and scholars who all have been there and done that. Today we have with us Akashdeep Dey, who is a Commonwealth scholar and did his master's from the University of Edinburgh. Welcome to Nbyula Talks, Akashdeep. I'm super excited to have this conversation with you, and I'm pretty sure even the viewers are. So before we kick off, would you like to start by giving an introduction of yourself?
Okay, so hello Sadhana, nice to see you again, and hello to everybody else who is here on the chat and has come to listen to us or listen to me basically. So I hope I will be able to answer most of your questions. Now, to introduce me, as Sadhana said, I did a master's degree at the University of Edinburgh in Sustainable Energy Systems, and I was a Commonwealth scholar, and yeah, I think that will suffice.
Thanks, Akashdeep. I'm sure everybody's eager to hear from you. So without further ado, let's just start the session. So my first question for you is, based on your own experience, what does an international student's life look like at the University of Edinburgh?
Okay, it's excellent really, because there are a lot of new experiences that we go through, a lot of new ways that the education system comes to us, because being an international student, we are not really used to the kind of education system there at Edinburgh. It's a lovely, beautiful city, which I think can be said of most cities in the UK. So the first few days when I just went in, it was more of appreciating how beautiful the city is and how lovely the weather is. I love cold weather, so yeah, how lovely the weather is, and yeah, the university, everything else, the welcome week, where lots of stuff happens all around, and I could see only a little bit of the welcome week because I arrived late. And then speaking with professors on one-to-one sessions right in the beginning of the course and everything, that's quite new. So the experience was excellent overall. There were challenges, there were great moments, there were moments when things got a little bit difficult, but yeah, the experience was really nice.
Yeah, so that does sound super exciting. So two things. You mentioned that the education system there is very different from that of India. So could you elaborate a little more on that?
Yeah, I fear generalizing things, so I will keep it just to my experience, but I believe this will be more or less common to quite a number of universities, or most universities in the UK. So yeah, in India, we are mostly used to a system where there is an examination and we study for it. So at times I felt, or maybe a lot of people feel, that the only purpose of schooling or going to college in India is to get through your exams, which is true, you need to get through the degree, but then there are a lot of other experiences that a student can have. There are skills that we need to learn, and this is what made the education system in the UK different from what I had experienced here in India. So as far as the difficulty level is concerned, well, for similar courses, the difficulties would be similar. But if I look at the basic differences, one of them is only a part of the evaluation system in Edinburgh was on written exams. Okay, so maybe for each semester, maybe 40% or 50% of the entire score was through examinations, and the remaining would be through assignments, poster presentations, PowerPoint presentations in front of an entire class on a specific topic given to us. So what that required is a lot of studies uh, outside of the books, if that makes sense. So we would be given a topic, and we'd probably be assigned a group for some of them, and it would be individual assignments for some others. So when we are assigned a group and we are assigned a topic, I'm working with four other people from four different countries who have had very different, training and education throughout their lives, and all of you basically come together in order to do one particular project which none of you have done before, or we haven't had much experience doing those things before that in our degree courses or in the class in Edinburgh, because these assignment topics used to be related, but they required studies and research outside of what is being immediately taught in class. So yeah, exploring the unknown out of your own accord was something that I really learned over there, and the time used to be really limited. So and this used to be very, very challenging. So on one fine Wednesday, a professor tells us at 4 o'clock that you have to present so and so on Friday morning, and there's only one day in between, and we had to prepare something out of nowhere, and it had to make sense because you knew that we are presenting in front of a class of 40, 50 people. There could be two or more professors, and no one wants to sound stupid in front of them. And so it had to be done in a really short time. And it seems really difficult, but then once you're in it, once there is a deadline and once I have to get it done within that time, it somehow did happen. And then people will come and ask you questions on that in the class itself. So the experience is enjoyable, but quite different and challenging for somebody who has not had that before on a regular basis. Now, this was not just one particular assignment. There used to be assignments of this sort throughout the semester. Besides presentations, there used to be written assignments again, which required a lot of research. So in one week, we had to write a paper, a research paper, obviously not a publishable research paper, but a research paper nevertheless, to be submitted within a week, and that required quite some research, thinking about it on your own, and so on. So it was different.
Mhm, mhm. That sounds nice. I mean, as challenging it is, I'm sure you had like the experience itself is thrilling. So that
It's
brings
thrilling
me to
and
my
it's fun.
uh-huh.
It's thrilling and it's fun.
Yeah.
Now when I look back at it, it was really nice. Yeah.
So that brings me to my, next question. What were, some of the biggest challenges that you faced, and for viewers who want to sort of praise themselves, what advices would you give, so that while they're still in college over here, the kind of habits that they need to develop, the kind of preparations that they need to make. I mean, you did speak about some challenges while you shared your experience, but a
Mhm.
deeper dive, in particular.
Yeah, very honestly, I would not advise anybody to prepare for anything, because the entire experience that one gains there is a preparation throughout the degree. So these assignments, these new challenges that we face, are prepared to make us learn, and are prepared to make us be better speakers, better presenters, better researchers, better project managers, or whatever you want to call it, or whatever is a person's ultimate aim that they want to do through this degree. So preparation, well, not too much really, but then one of the so since you asked me about challenges, and challenges are not essentially academic all the time. Challenges can be otherwise as well. So managing studies, studies that are really new, things that I've not done before, and together with that, managing the household, because you need to do shopping, cooking, and whatnot in the UK, which again we are not at all used to in India. And I wouldn't advise anybody to get used to it as well. If someone wants to, it's all right, but that's not something that they'd have to practice. But yeah, so managing your household, managing food, and together with that, managing assignments, research assignments, group assignments, all of that, and dividing time. Uh, so that everything gets done properly. And together with that, mind you, the assignments are there, but there will be an end semester exam for which we'd have to study throughout the semester, managing all of these assignments and all of these basic household work that one needs to do. So that, I think, was the biggest challenge for me in the in the first 1 month, or in the first 2 months, when I was not used to either the education system or the kitchen, and both had to be managed. The other thing is, for students who are here, or who want to go abroad and study at Edinburgh or any other university of this sort, one of the things is, rote learning is not very important there. So we do need to know concepts, but we need to understand them. So so for people who are at college in India, if they really do want to go abroad and study eventually in the UK, then trying to get your concepts clear, rather than just getting the exam done and then forgetting about them, that could be one thing that they should do. And I think that's quite generalized as well. Even if you don't study in the UK, concepts should be clear in general. Besides that, writing skills help, in a way. So writing in the sense, so let's talk about so I did physics in my undergrads. Okay, so most of my writing was limited to uh, mathematics and lab reports. So in addition to that, being able to write essays on topics of interest, being able to write uh, general documents. By general documents, I mean something that is meant for a more general audience and not for a physicist or a chemist. Being able to write general documents based on your own subject area, these are some skills that eventually do help uh, in higher studies as well as beyond. So yeah, I think these, and besides that, it's really having that mindset to be ready for anything that comes. So rather than preparing for something, it's better to prepare ourselves as to, okay, whatever happens, we'll deal with it. I think that mindset is most important to nurture.
Mhm, mhm.
Hmm.
Well, let's come back to Edinburgh. So, how hard is it to get into the University of Edinburgh?
Okay, there is no clear answer to this. I cannot say really hard or really easy. So the thing is, okay, so Edinburgh is a really high ranked university. I think in the QS international ranking, it comes somewhere in 15. So, so the general perception is it is really difficult to get into these really high ranked universities. Definitely doing anything big is difficult. But the point is, I think I've said this before in one of my earlier sessions as well. Every application is different. Every candidate is different. So, so I don't like to use a generalized term. It's really difficult to get into Edinburgh, or it's not that difficult and anybody can get in. None of this is true. So yes, it's important to have good scores in your undergrads, or whatever the previous degree was, but there is no definition of good, because every university in India would have a different marking scheme. We do understand that Delhi University and Calcutta University, for example, do not have similar marking schemes, and students often do complain about these things. But and so, since it's so difficult for us to even understand why the universities are marking differently, the same goes for universities abroad. They would not understand the difference between a 75 at one university and an 85 at another, or if there is a difference at all. So yes, it's important to have marks that look good in general. Above 60% is the eligibility criterion, and trust me, that is the true eligibility criterion. There is no hidden requirement. It helps to have extracurriculars in your bag. Any kind of extracurriculars, could be sports, music, drama, whatever. Some extracurricular achievements definitely help you. And I think the most important factor for Edinburgh, at least, or to the best of my knowledge, other universities in the UK as well, is to know the motivation for studying that particular degree. So when I studied sustainable energy systems, I remember I had to write an essay about what was my motivation to study that particular degree and where do I want to reach after that degree. So I think understanding why a student wants to study that, and being able to reason that out and explain that to somebody else and convince them that this is important for me and for my career, for the world also maybe, and this is why I want to do it, this is how I want to do it, this is my motivation. I think that is the most important factor for a student who wants to go and go for higher studies. The motivation has to be really clear, and it has to be convincing to anybody who's reading it.
Mhm, mhm. So, speaking of Edinburgh as a city, not just the University of Edinburgh, what are certain things that somebody should be prepared for before moving to that city, and what are some initial experiences and challenges you faced while settling in a new country? So, if you could throw some light on that.
Okay. Uh, I wouldn't say anything was particularly challenging because, as I said, it's important to accept what's happening and go with the flow. But a few things to prepare. Let's see. I need to think about it. The weather is one thing that one needs to prepare. It's really cold and windy, so it's more about a mental preparation rather than a physical one. And one of the things that I advise in general is to buy jackets and stuff once you're there and not from here before going. And that's advice that I heard from my seniors, and it was really correct and honest. It's good to buy stuff that you need there. Uh, Besides that, well, there are cultural differences, definitely. But, well, humans are humans, and the basic way they behave is quite similar everywhere. Uh, Crossing the road is different in the UK, so you need to wait for the red light to cross. In India, I am aware not a lot of people do that, although that's always advisable, trying to be politically correct. But yeah, there are these tiny differences that are there. But then, well, I wouldn't really call them challenges. It's all a growing experience.
Mhm, mhm. So, speaking of cultural differences, like you said, did you face any cultural shocks per se? Both socially and in terms of, I mean, we spoke a lot about education system, so maybe
Mhm.
socially.
Okay. I told you some of the questions could be stumpers for me because I have to go back and think about
Oh,
it.
you can take a moment
Uh,
and remember
well,
those old days.
cultural shocks, not really, but then certain differences that I experienced were okay. One of the things is at the supermarkets we get to bill our own stuff. That was weird because, well, there's nobody to check who's billing what. And it's important to be honest in that country. One thing that I noticed is word of mouth has a lot of value, and
Mhm,
people tend to believe us based on what we say. And
mhm,
it was often not essential to show proofs of anything whatsoever. So if I was really ill for 2 weeks in between, and I had to miss the university. I had to go to the hospital and stuff. So I just narrate this tiny story. So after I met the doctor, and the doctor gave me medicines and stuff. It's free there. The NHS gives free medical care to students because we already have a health insurance that we purchased. So after I got the medicines, it was really running in my head that I need to provide a doctor's certificate or something at the university because I'll have to miss classes. And the doctor gave me nothing that could prove that I was ill. And I ended up asking the doctor quite upfront that, so won't you give me a prescription or a doctor's certificate or anything? And the doctor said, oh, but why do you need a prescription? I've given you medicines already. And I was really feeling weird to ask this, but then I did because I didn't know the system. And that was probably just a month when I was there in Edinburgh. So I said, and how do I tell the university that I am ill and I cannot attend classes? And then
mhm.
the doctor says, well, just go and tell them and they'll believe you. And it was really weird for the doctor to, even get this question from a student. And the answer would be equally weird because we are used to providing a doctor's certificate in schools and colleges. Here, if you had to miss for a really lengthy period of time, about 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So yeah, there are these tiny differences, but then it's really nice. At the same time, I would urge every student not to misuse the power of the word of mouth, because eventually, we have seen, if something gets misused, then things keep changing, which doesn't remain great for everybody else. For example, when one is unable to submit an assignment on time, uh, if somebody is late for the assignment, then even if you go and say I was really ill, it doesn't help. If you didn't submit, you didn't submit, and that's it. However, if before the submission a student says that I'm really ill and I cannot submit this, without any proof whatsoever, they usually give a 1 week or a 2 week extension, depending on what illness the student says they have. So word of mouth has a lot of value everywhere, in the institution, in the universities, outside on the road. People are generally helpful, and it's good to reciprocate that as well. If somebody needs help on the road, it's good to help anywhere, but it's more common in Edinburgh that people do help one another out. So yeah, these cultural differences are there, but then, well, and I'm sure there would be many more that I could not recall immediately. But yeah, it's nice to be in a new environment and take things in and learn from them, understand what's going on, and blah blah. I like to observe people and cultures in general, beyond my education. So I really enjoyed it.
That's nice. So, coming back to college, so what are some opportunities outside of academics that the university has to offer? Let's say, co-curricular activities or networking opportunities and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. So I'd say the opportunities are unlimited in this domain, really, because
Mhm.
beyond academics, well, okay, there's something I missed in academics that I'll come back to. But
Mhm.
since we are doing the extracurriculars bit, there is technically everything that a student can do beyond academics as well. So there are really, state of the art gymnasiums, sport facilities, tennis courts, badminton courts, swimming pools, etc., etc. So any kind of games, sports that one wants to do, it's there. And there's enough facility for everybody to go through and participate. Music, ample opportunities, many music societies, Indian, Western, all kinds of music that happens there. There are studios also, if somebody wants to avail of that. There are procedures, but then it's possible to book studios. If you want a general gathering with students and do a networking session with other students, it's really easy to book rooms. It's easy to book lectures. It's easy to attend any lecture that you want beyond the particular course. So I was in sustainable energy systems. Suppose I wanted to attend a history lecture, it's really easy to go and say I want to attend that particular history lecture, and one usually can. Uh, uh, Besides that, the university has regular, you know, I don't know if job fairs would be the right term, but well, networking events where a lot of companies come and have their tables put out, and students can go and interact with them, build their network, understand what kinds of skills they're looking for to employ people. So these are not those employment drives. So they don't come to pick students up and give them employment, but they sort of come to network and give students a taste of what the companies would be like, and what students are expected to know or have a background in order to get recruited. And so these networking events really help to get to know people in these companies if one is interested, get to understand what to do, so on and so forth. Besides that, if somebody is interested in research beyond the degree course, as I was, so if say somebody is not interested in taking up a job but rather doing a PhD and a postdoc and so on in an academic career, it's really easy to speak to any professor, whether or not they teach you, discuss research opportunities, discuss research topics, and set something up, create your own research proposal, figure out the application, where to apply, how to apply, so on and so forth. So these things are really easy, and professors are, well, this is a cultural difference as well as an answer to the present question. Professors are really, really approachable. So often they made us feel that they are our friends rather than professors, which made it extremely easy to go on and ask any question whatsoever. And even if we don't meet deadlines, I remember my dissertation supervisor, when we were doing the dissertation, we had a weekly meeting, and COVID had started by then, and there were these frequent lockdowns and stuff, and the general mental health of people was not great. And I remember my supervisor telling me, so if on a particular week you don't have any updates to give me about your studies, then doesn't matter. We will not discuss studies on that day. We'll just discuss when you went out for a walk and how many daffodils you saw, but we'll still connect weekly so that we can talk. But it doesn't have to be about academics. We'll discuss academics when you want. We'll discuss other things when you want. So these are things that really helps us to be comfortable in our skin and be able to speak with the professors, which arguably was not always the case in my previous degrees. Also, so when I went to meet so every student has a personal tutor and a project supervisor. The supervisor is later in the degree, but the personal tutor throughout the project is somebody who sort of is a local guide or a local guardian over there, provided to you by the university. And I remember when I was going to meet my personal tutor for the first time, and everybody has to meet their personal tutor once they go to get registered for the course finally. I was a little scared because I didn't know what will happen, what he'd ask me, how it would go. And so the moment I entered, he discussed a few academic things, which optionals I'd like to take, so on. And after that, he sort of opened a huge map of the UK or Scotland, probably. And then he tells me that, okay, besides the education, these are really lovely places to visit. You've got to visit there. This is a place to visit in autumn, that in winter. So, that really brought the seriousness of the situation down, and I was extremely comfortable to go on and discuss. So yeah, there are these things. It's easy to network with professors, even outside of the university. It's easy to network with companies when they come. There are a host of possibilities in terms of sports, music, events. Even if somebody wants to engage in university politics, that's really easy. So yeah, lots of unlimited opportunities beyond academics and in academics as well. And before we go to the next question, as I said, I missed out something in the academics bit. So there is a course structure definitely, but it can be tailor-made by the student. So the assignments are given in such a way that it's not just one assignment. There are 30 different assignment topics, and the students can choose one of them. So it helps to that the student can sort of explore their own interests and tweak the course slightly depending on their interests and learn what they want to a certain extent. Yeah.
Mhm. That sounds excellent. I mean, it's just so exciting that anybody who's just planning to go to the city, they're like, I want this. I need to put more efforts.
True.
So, coming back to Edinburgh, being one of the being on the expensive side of the deal, accommodation finding affordable accommodation would be quite difficult for a lot of people. So, what are some tips you can give to students on finding the best possible accommodation, affordable accommodation options? And there's also a probability that a lot of people get scammed while they're finding accommodation. So, what is something that you have to say on this matter?
Okay. Yes. Yeah. I think this is something important to explore. Hi. Are you there?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Fine. Yeah. So first of all, yes, Edinburgh is sort of an expensive city. Less expensive than London, definitely, but it is expensive in terms of housing, definitely. And in order to find accommodation, obviously, student accommodation from the university would be the first uh, point for the students to look at. Besides that, there are private accommodations available. I lived in a private accommodation, and frankly speaking, I found it really good because me and my flatmate, there was a big flat just to the two of us, and we had our own big bedrooms. There was a huge living room and stuff like that.
Mhm.
It's really nice and enjoyable to live in a private accommodation because it becomes your house. But it could be difficult to find private accommodation, as you mentioned, because what happens is they only offer private accommodation if somebody views it in person. I don't know nowadays because of COVID, maybe there are online viewings as well. But so for a student who's not in Edinburgh or not in the country and will go over later on, it's really difficult to find private accommodation for them. So for me, I was lucky in this respect that I there was a student I knew already who sort of explored the private accommodation scene for me to an extent. I went there and changed the house later on. That was a different story. But at least there was somebody who could look at the house and book it for me. But looking at the general student's perspective, I would advise that looking up university accommodation is the best thing right now, because A, prices have gone up for private accommodation as well, and the university is trying to make it slightly more affordable for students, which was not the case earlier. I'm sorry to say this, as university accommodation used to be expensive, but now they have become a little more, reachable. And electricity and stuff like that is cared for in the university accommodation. In a private accommodation, the student would have to deal with electricity bills, this and that separately, which is really easy, but then it's there. So in terms of getting scammed, the only piece of advice that I could give is students should not pay a single penny before they're in Edinburgh, seen the house, and have done the paperwork to book it. And unless the agency looks trustworthy. So usually the agencies will have big offices in proper locations in Edinburgh. If the agency doesn't have a good enough office, it's best not to pay them. Try and not. So there are two ways to get private accommodation. There are private landlords and there are agencies. The agencies are free for the tenants. So the students don't need to pay anything to the agencies to get a house through them. It's better to an extent to go through an agency because the probability of getting scammed is lower. You never know who a private landlord would be and how they would be. So these things are there. If somebody wants to go on for a private accommodation, it's good to look for flatmates earlier on. So I remember my flatmate had found me on Facebook, and then he told me, "Would you like to take a flat?" I said, "Yeah, sure." So it's important to have 2 or 3 people who are happy to live in the same house, and look for a house only after that, not before. If one is unable to make a group, student accommodation is the best option, hands down. University student accommodation, I meant. So yeah, don't pay. Uh, Usually people who get private accommodation go and live there in a hotel or an Airbnb for 2 weeks or so and get a house after that. But there is no guarantee that one will get a house within 2 weeks. It could take a month, it could take 1.5 months. So it becomes risky unless you already have a house booked for you. So looking at all of these factors, university accommodation might just be, the safest option, and one would not get scammed. But definitely private houses would be bigger, and yeah, some people might find that easier to live in. Then there is quite some preparation, as I said.
So, speaking of student accommodations, do they have enough to cater to all students' requirements? Like, are there enough vacancies, and are there any rules and
Um,
regulations that
okay,
come with
I'm not
student
the best
accommodation?
person to answer this, but the answer is yes and no. The honest answer would be no. They don't have enough accommodation to accommodate everybody who is studying at the university. At the same time, they do have guaranteed accommodation for international applicants. At least Edinburgh does. I will not comment on other universities about this. Edinburgh has guaranteed international student accommodation if people apply by a particular date. It was sometime in May, if I'm not very wrong. But yeah, so if a student applies by that date, and the university will inform by email, then accommodation to internationals is guaranteed. So yeah, although there might not be enough to accommodate everybody, internationals are safer in that domain if they apply within the stipulated time. If they apply after that time, then there would not be a guaranteed accommodation.
So, do they have any particular rules and regulations to stay in a student accommodation, or it's all chill?
Oh, it's chill. Well, there are written rules, of course. You should not be very noisy. You should not disturb the person beside your who's in the next room. You should not have loud parties in the evening when people might want to study. So yeah, there are these written rules, and these are common sense basically. You should not put out loud music in your room in the evening because other people can be studying. If you want to listen to music, there are headphones. You want to take a walk outside, do what you want. So yeah, live your life and don't disturb others is the only rule. Other than that, it's chill. I did not live in student accommodation, but there were friends who did. I visited them frequently, and yeah, it's good. It's fine.
Yeah, those were some, really insightful answers. So now let's move on to some questions the audience may have.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, the first question we have is, what support did you find helpful in navigating your experience as a student at the University of Edinburgh?
Okay, so plenty of support is available. You just need to ask for it. So in terms of academic experiences, professors are there available for meetings whenever you want. So of course they'd have their classes and their research and stuff like that, but it's easy to find an appointment with a professor, say next week, if you want to speak with them on some particular date. And the professors respect the students' time as well, so they will not say I'm free at so and so or come and meet me. So they say I'm free at that time, are you free as well? Okay, so that's how it works. Mental health support, a lot of it is available. We kept on getting emails regularly before the exams, maybe a month or so before the exams, that if your mental health is not great and you think you might not be able to write the exams to the best of your ability, come and speak to us. We might help you with your situation. We might help to postpone your exam, or whatever it is. So a lot of support is available provided students go and ask for it. The first person to go and speak with for any problem, personal or academic, would be the personal tutor, always. So I remember my personal tutor had told me, so if you're sad, you're missing your family, or in general you feel down and you'd like to go out on dinner with somebody and your friends are not available, you can tell me and I'm happy to go for dinner with you. Okay, so quite some support is available. This was just a very low level example, but personal tutors are really helpful. Once dissertation supervisors are allotted, they also become like personal tutors. So and even any other professor in the university could be helpful. So yeah, there is a lot of support available.
That sounds extremely sweet, honestly. So, moving on to the next question. How has the University of Edinburgh helped you prepare for your future and career goals?
Okay, so as I said, there are these skills that were given: public speaking skills, presentation skills, research skills, and so these are things that really help you beyond your degree. I wanted to, get into research, so I had a number of, say, PhD interviews. Uh, I had to write some research papers and stuff, and all of that happened properly thanks to the training I received back in Edinburgh. Uh, and then they do teach you the skills that are necessary. Beyond that, it's a lot on the student, really. So people can help you, but my responsibility is mine, and I cannot deny that. So as I said, it's possible to tailor make the course depending on what the student wants to learn. So yeah, the university is there to support, but what kind of help, what kind of preparation the student needs is up to the student, and the student would need to, explore opportunities depending on their own future perspectives.
Mhm, mhm. We have one more question that says, did you get involved with any extracurricular activities on campus as an international student? I mean, I'm sure you did. So if you could, quote one or two, it will be nice.
Okay. Uh, as I said, I was a Commonwealth scholar. I purposely did not go to the Commonwealth bit today, because when we talked about finances, because we were dealing with general, like, students who might not be scholars as well. So being a Commonwealth scholar, I was a university representative, and I had to be involved in, uh, I had to be involved in organizing some events, not just for the University of Edinburgh scholars, but for scholars in Scotland in general. Not me alone. There used to be representatives from all the universities, but then we'd had to get together and do stuff. Besides that, I was not very much involved in extracurricular activities on campus, other than this Commonwealth Scholarship University representative thing. But so I was really involved with the Indian community or the Bengali community there in Edinburgh, and there are really frequent festivals, Indian festivals, that happen there. So I used to go and sing in those, take part over there. Then we had a group of students. We used to do a lot of music together. I am a singer also. So we did a lot of music and stuff together. And whatever extra time I had beyond the academics, which I mind you is not a lot. So there used to be little time. I preferred to, besides my singing and my involvement with these activities, I prefer to, travel the city or slightly around the city as far as I could. So I purposely did a little bit less extracurriculars at the university, other
Mhm.
than, well, I had to do something to put on my CV, and I had to make sure that I was doing good stuff. So university representative looks good already, and there was enough work from that front until COVID happened. So Besides that, I wanted to keep time to travel because that's something I really love.
Mhm. If I could, add on to the same question and ask you, how important is it for a student to be involved in a couple of, extracurricular or co-curricular activities? Is it even important at all? Or if one has to do it, is it one doing out of their personal interest? Or does that affect your, grades and stuff like that?
So I would say, again, this is completely my point of view. I would say extracurriculars are important in terms of the student's mental health and, putting something else on the CV beyond academics as well. However, it's important to make sure that, as you said, I don't spend a lot of time on curriculars that I end up having less time for studies. That is not advisable because, as I said, the system is different, the course is different. There is not a lot of time. It's a 1 year master's degree, so a lot of time will be required for the degree itself. However, uh, extracurriculars are important to an extent, as I said, but if a student doesn't want to do extracurriculars at all and wants to concentrate just on the academic bit and maybe travel around, that's absolutely all right. There is no competition in terms of extracurriculars. And if a student wants to do a bit of extracurriculars, like I did, I wanted to do some extracurriculars, some traveling, some networking with people, some music, all so that it doesn't cost my academics. That's also all right. Okay.
That's nice. So, I mean, I'm sure there are so many more interesting things to talk about, but we have unfortunately reached, like, kind of the end of our
Mhm.
time frame. So, before we, like, wind this up, is there something like a bonus tip or like a closing, tip you want to give our viewers?
Ah, okay. I do not want to take time to think about this. So, yeah, I think the most important thing, I will try and summarize what I said earlier. That would be the takeaway. The most important thing would be to know the motivation to study the course, and the motivation should not be studying in the UK. The motivation should be studying that particular degree. Why, and then why in the UK. So, it's important to be clear about why a student wants to do that course and where they want to reach beyond that. Accordingly, it's good to tailor make that particular course according to your needs and requirements. It's good to be involved in a little bit of extracurriculars because that helps one to network, but definitely not at the cost of academics, because given the group assignments and stuff, you can network with your peers even during academics. So and mind you, the group assignments, so if I had, say, 6 group assignments, I don't remember how many we did, maybe more, but if I had 6 group assignments, each of those groups were different. So you get to eventually know many students, and try and network with the professors a bit, uh, get to know them beyond classroom, because students will need references to get into degrees after that, or into jobs. Get to know professors, make sure they know you, network with them, try to learn from them, try to get tips and tricks from them as to what to do for your future, and all the best. And yes, the most important thing, be prepared to tackle whatever comes. It sounds intimidating, but it's not. It's important to have this mindset.
Thank you, Akashdeep. It's been a super interesting and an insightful discussion. I'm pretty sure everybody that attended the talk as well had like a really good experience and they have something they can take back home and think about. So I'm glad we had this conversation. And to all the viewers who are watching this, Akashdeep is available for personal guidance as well on Nebula. So please connect with him. If you have any queries for him, please leave them in his DM or request a one-on-one personal guidance session from him. And having listened to him for the last 30 to 40 minutes, I'm pretty sure you all understand how insightful and how resourceful as a mentor he is. So please do go ahead, contact him, and thank you so much for attending the session today and being such an amazing audience. And it was really lovely talking to all of you. And Akashdeep, once again, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule and coming here and speaking to us and giving all these personalized insights to our students, because these are the kind of insights they wouldn't get outside, they wouldn't get on Google. It's coming out of somebody's experience. So thank you so much for taking time and joining with us today.
Thank you, Sadhana, for being such a wonderful host always in all these talks, and thank you for inviting me. And yeah, it's been great to share my experiences. I'm sure I missed out some things, and I'm sorry for that. And yeah, if somebody wants to get in touch and speak with me personally, I'm available for general university application or the Commonwealth scholarship if they have any questions or whatever. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you once again. Thank you, everyone. This will be our leave. So please make sure you explore through the platform and find, multiple talks like these, mentors like these who would be willing to help you with anything that you're looking for when it comes to studies or work abroad. And if you're not able to find something and you need any queries, you can always DM me. You can just connect with me, or you can just message Nbyula's Instagram handle as well. So we'll always be happy to help. Thank you so much for joining. Thanks, Akash. See you all.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.